we meet Doug Williamson, Long Island artist who's going to share his works of art and the stories behind each piece. Hi, Doug.
Hello.
How are you?
All right. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited that you're here. We've been talking a lot. I've seen your work, so it's a real treat to our audience because you're a talented man.
I'm flattered that you asked me to come here to do this based on seeing like a picture over someone's shoulder, so to say, of something.
Yeah.
No one ever showed any interest, never mind such a distant interest to land it
Really?
like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So I that blows my mind because you know the works that you have are really profound, and we will get to it. We get to them, but I'm just letting you know now, for anyone who's watching, when you see his work, and I'm warning you that the floods gates will open. So be ready for that, because you have some talented pieces.
Okay.
But I want to know, like, when did this all start? Like, at what age were you creating pieces, drawing, painting?
Very early. I actually was going to bring a little scrap of paper here that says age 8. It has a rocket ship on it.
Yeah.
So before 8 years old, I was drawing, and pretty extensively drawing in pads and stuff, you know, on and off. And you going to school as a kid and all that, so you can't just do that, but pretty much all the time.
And for you, what was it like to paint? Like, you know, to start at a young age, you know, you go through school, drawing, art is a part of what you do in school, it's part of your curriculum. Mm-hmm. But what was it for you that you felt that when you started drawing, it was so unique?
Like I said, it was more like these images, so to say, that I will create. They're driven by something. It's not like I go to them to pull something from them to get satisfied. It's more like they are an end result of driven to put them there. Like, I like to create images that can put anything any way that I so say, and no one can change it. And that's kind of nice to do, because I can just do it and get my own laugh about it, and or whatever it is, and go to the next thing. But it's more driven than let me create this and stand back. It's like a final result of I'm driven to do it.
So how did your artwork evolve? So obviously 8 years old to now. I won't call your age out, you know.
I don't care about that.
But how did it evolve over time? So you started sculpting that rocket ship on pen and paper, or pencil and paper, and behind us we have one of your pieces. This is canvas, acrylic paint, or acrylic paint. How did it evolve for you?
I never attempted to paint anything like this, like the oil painting style. You know, acrylic is very similar to oil. It's different, but it's similar in the way you have to approach the painting. Like I said, sometimes you got to paint layers and let it dry and go back, and sometimes you want it wet. It depends. You could apply it thick like oil too, depends on what you want. But to develop it like that, it took a long time, because as a kid I always wanted to be able to draw super realism, like where you would look at the painting and get blown away. How do you do this? But I never could achieve it. I have many drawings of silly figures and stuff that just look like sausage people, you know what I'm saying? And then this small little tiny bit of exposure to, like, you know, school or professionals or teachers or whoever could give you information, so to say. You learn that you have to include a lot more than just the drawing. You have to understand the way it's going to be perceived. You have to understand the layout, like we were talking about before. It's not just the technique of applying the colors and shadows and shapes, but the layout. So if you want to achieve that super realism, it takes years of practice, for me anyway, and I don't even think I'm there yet anyway. I think I still have a bit of a cartoonish touch to my stuff, as much as I want it to be real. You know, you ever look at Norman Rockwell stuff? It's old and old-fashioned, but it's amazing.
Right.
So to develop it to this point, it just took years of doing it. I went from basically sketching black and white to sketching color pencils to kind of getting into paint, doing the huge murals, and then, because I couldn't continue doing that, because where are you painting these huge murals all the time?
Right.
It came down to I could do this, and for the last couple of years I've been developing it as much as I can.
Right. I want to unpack. You gave a lot. You gave a lot to me, so thank you.
That was just those, whatever it is, 25 canvases are just from January to now.
So let's go back though. So you were saying that when you started creating, you had this vision in your mind of what you wanted your pieces to look like, and when they appeared, they didn't resemble what you had in your mind.
Exactly. I was the first guy always to be like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, over and over, and I would just never be able to get there. Only now, literally 40-something years later, am I like, I could show this.
Okay.
And I'm still on the fence about it.
Well, so now you're at the, so let's go back. So you're like, this is what I want to do. This sucks. But at some point, you're self-taught. Like, I know you've taken classes, obviously, through your education, but you're self-taught for the most part.
Yeah, I'd say self-taught. The only classes were, like I said, layouts, and that's not really anything but doing like a Photoshop thing, but this was before Photoshop, so it was really nothing.
But what drives that tenacity for you to keep drawing, right? Because, you know, most people, and obviously you're here, you're not average, right? Most people would say, oh, this sucks, I quit, I'm not an artist. And we've talked about it. I've done paint nights, people, and even with instruction, it didn't look the way the picture looked. So you are self-taught. So for, you know, the last 40-some years, you're like, it sucked, and you're just getting to the point of where you're like, I can show people. What was it that changed in terms of your technique, or what did you observe to really find that, you know, besides practice, to really get you to a place where you developed a style that you're comfortable sharing with us?
Well, for sure, practice makes perfect. If you know what it is you're trying to practice and accomplish. So without that, without knowing that, it's just years of doing it and stumbling through it. I would say the tenacity, huh? Like I said, each thing that I create, so to say, and now it's pretty much paintings, but there's much more that I create, you know, music or a building or whatever it is. But for each painting, so to say, or even a drawing, it's driven by a thought or something of I want this and this and this to happen, so when I show it to someone, I'll get this reaction. And it takes a lot to put it together and get it to that point where I want to show someone to try to get that reaction. Sometimes I won't show it, or I'll show it and get not the reaction that I wanted. And it just drives you crazy.
And what happens when you have this vision of, I want this person to have this reaction, and they don't have it? What does that do for you as an artist?
It's like, that kicks it back to, I do this solely for myself. I try to open it and share it with other people, but a lot of times it's not going to get you what you want. And I'm not saying that I need accolades and, oh, you're so good at it. Not at all. I'm not saying that. I'll put myself below just about everyone that I come across. But sometimes, like some of those paintings I said I did for my friends, the reaction I got was totally unexpected.
Right.
I didn't want that reaction, so to say, in that way. I wanted a reaction, but not that. So it's very, it's mysterious, you know, sometimes. Other times I'll show someone a painting just to show them, I painted this. And it'll turn into a whole chain of events based on what they felt or what they saw or what they want to talk about. That might lead it to the next painting. It depends. You know, I'm pretty free-flowing because I don't do this as a job. There's no deadlines and there's no expectations. So
no deadline, no expectations. So what's the longest you've spent on an actual piece of work?
As far as doing canvases, I'd say this one behind us and one of the other ones got about 24 hours start and stop, total 24 hours.
Right.
Yeah, so it's about the longest, but I won't, well, I can't say I won't paint straight. I haven't painted straight for 24 hours, but I've painted straight for 12 or 14 hours.
And why? What is driving that desire to continuously paint? You know, is it cathartic for you, or is it that the image is so vibrant in your mind?
Partially. What it really is when you paint, it's a very slow process. And I'm not simply like looking at a picture and painting it. I might have pictures to refer to. If I'm doing people I know, I'll ask like my daughters, come here for a second. You know, and then they only give you 5 minutes. But I want to get it done because I know it's hours away before I get it to a point where I can show it and get the reaction. And it just drives me crazy because part of my creative process, I don't count those hours in the painting. The painting hours I count are only when I'm actually painting. There could be 2, 3, 4 hours where I'll just sit and look at it and have music on and maybe eat something or look at something else in conjunction with it. But that time will be spent just perceiving it. Is it done? Does it need more? Where is it going? So in reality, 24 hours, that could be 2 weeks.
So this painting here, which, you know, it's a beautiful piece. These are your 2 daughters and your wife. And this took 24 hours.
Of painting. But from start to finish, it might be on the back, actually, when it got started and finished. I think it was about a 2-month process.
2 months. Wow.
Yeah. Like I said, because there would be hours where I might just sit and stare at it. And I have pictures of paintings in process. So you could see, and then you understand, oh, I could see why you'd look at that and just sit and look at it until you figured out where you wanted to go with it.
Right. Do you ever find yourself starting and stopping or recreating? So when you know, is there ever a bad canvas? Meaning like you start and you're like, this is completely not happening, get rid of it? Or are you an artist who consistently like, I have to just work through this, I have to work through it. If this is what's coming out, this is what's coming out?
Yeah, I have this strange kind of thing. It probably comes from my grandfather. He used to take nails out of the wood and straighten them out and put them in a jar. But he was born in 1896. But I have a little bit of that in that if I start a painting and it's total crud, I'm still going to work it to a point where I will deem it to be, this is done. And then I'll never show it to anyone. But I never can do something and just be like, no. And I know, look at the most famous painters going back 500, 600 years. It could be any of, you know, Durer or Van Gogh or any of these guys. There's so many incomplete pieces they have.
Right.
But I believe that it was driven by money because they needed to make a living and they had the ability to be paid for their paintings. So things would happen, people didn't pay, and the painting would be done. Like, off the track, because you're not paying me for this. I don't care about this. And now all these years later, we see all these incomplete paintings. I guess it would happen to me too if I was getting paid or something, but it's not like that. There's no deadlines or anything. It's just my own party.
Okay. So you mentioned some renowned artists, but you know, who do you identify with, if anyone, or what's the period of art that you tend to kind of really find reference to?
That's interesting. You want to talk about that?
Let's do it.
So to me, I'm way more like in the modern age as much as I'm a dinosaur. So to me, Boris Vallejo, Frank Frazetta, Norman Rockwell. So what's that, 1930 to now? I mean, Frazetta's gone. Boris is still kicking around as far as I know. Also, I'd say, I can't think of his name right now. It slips my mind, the creator of all the alien stuff. Giger,
okay.
H.R. Giger. Those 4 painters, pretty much, you know, in my life, that's like the images that I would see and be like, wow, just wow. As you get an art education from going to these other classes, even though it's not art, it's just information. You learn about the other painters, and then as you grow older, you realize, wow, you didn't teach me anything about those other painters. You didn't teach me that this guy was a slave to the church and had to go out in the woods and get berries and mix his colors and paint these paintings because he had no choice. You didn't tell me that. You're telling me, look at this beautiful work he did. But could he have created that just sitting around on his own time?
What does that mean for you? So for you to know that, you know, an artist has gone out to the woods to get berries to paint, what does that...
And other things, you know, minerals, rock, or whatever they were using, there's technology of the time.
Yeah,
you know?
But what does that mean for you? What does it say to you about that artist?
Like I said, I wonder, is it driven like his own madness, like what drives me? Or is he driven because outside sources say, you have to do this, and therefore out of... oh yeah, I can do this type of thing, they do it. Right. I mean, and I'm sure that they were up against more than that, but it just makes me wonder, because a lot of times the creative process, I see these great artists like Boris paint some really, really stuff that you wonder, what are you doing, dude?
Right.
You're such a great artist. And other times I see Frazetta's paintings and I'm just like, wow, dude, you need to talk to Boris, because you guys are like on both ends. This guy has the layouts and this guy has the technique, and you need to put that together somehow, which I guess Nolan Rockwell did before them, just without the demons and gargoyles.
So what is the, I'm afraid to ask, honestly.
Ask anything.
I know, but I'm afraid to ask.
You get the power of edit.
I know, but you know, I want it raw and real. So this might be real, raw and real. So you talked about the artists, they're mixing berries and minerals to get colors. What's the most wild ingredient or resource you've used to paint with for canvas? If you've gone
there's
there.
no crazy answers for that. It's just paint in a tube. That's it. There's not. I mean, look, if someone commissions me to paint, you know, with blood, or I mean, there's famous painters, I can tell you their names. Like, so band Metallica did the Load paintings, which was actually what it is.
Okay.
I've never
all right.
painted like that.
Okay.
Now that was, but like I said, that guy was commissioned for that, I believe. I don't know if he went to them like I had this idea or they went to him, but in the end, there was a money-driven thing. There was a profit to be made, so therefore it was created. Now, to me, I'm not going to judge it, but no, I've only painted with paint.
Okay. and acrylic paint, not oil.
No, I'd have to go back and look. Maybe early on I have 1 or 2 oils, but what I learned very quickly was they take forever to dry, and as a young person, that does not fly.
Okay, okay. Well, it doesn't fly, but it takes you 24 hours in time, but you know.
The difference is that with the acrylic, it gets to a point where you can stand there and go, this is ready to go on now, and that's where I can stand and stare for 2 or 3 hours.
Okay.
While I'm working it and painting on it, I have to keep going. My mind tells me, you have to get to this step. Once you get there, I could leave it, come back downstairs the next day and just stare at it for an hour, or maybe I might start. It's never scripted, you know? It's always an outside force driving it, always, always, always.
Okay, okay. So we have, I want to show your artwork, but before we do that, before we go to break and see what's going on with what you got, I want to make sure that people can connect with you. So what's the best way for people to do that?
Right now, just drop me an email.
Email and any websites?
Yeah.
I'll have it up.
I got a Wix website I set up right for the moment.
Okay, and that should be up on the screen.
I'm pretty much a dinosaur, so it's very tough for me to do all of that.
Okay, but we'll find you. I found you. Shout out to Barbara too, because she was my plug for you. So I'm really grateful for that. So when we come back, we will definitely see more of Doug's artwork. We'll see some of his series, and you'll see exactly. And you'll probably get the reactions that I've been getting when you see them. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We're here with Doug Williamson, who's going to share some of his artwork with us and tell us the story behind each one of them. All right, so this is one that was behind us during our interview. And we've already established that these are your 2 girls.
So that was a gift to my family. You know, I never really painted a family portrait. Now that I have a family, so I painted it, and it's got a few symbolic things in there. This ring on her finger is an actual ring that was built by a friend of ours with stones from a ring that her grandmother had probably 100 years before.
This one here.
That one there. And it's an important ring. The 3 stones symbolizes them. She wears it all the time. And you know, the only other thing was I wanted it to look aesthetically nice, kind of with a heart shape here to show like the love for my children and their faces. Since one has brown eyes, one has blue eyes, I figured the colors worked, you know, very well.
So when you're saying the heart like this, them connected like so, right? And then you said...
and this hand position that they have, there's a rhyme that goes with it. Something about why the ring goes on your ring finger. I couldn't tell you what it is. They could tell you though.
Okay, and this next one, so
So this is a painting that was thought about in the 80s when I was a child, and then I didn't paint it till just this year. And it burst out from this painting into a series of 3.
Okay, and this series is called?
Well, being that we had to give it a name, and the whole focus is my cassette tape. In this first one here, we're going to call all 3 the My Cassette Tape series, basically because you see the Grim Reaper down here has my cassette tape, which he's had for quite some time, apparently, I found out. And I had to go see him about all of this up here, which are basically all of my musical heroes throughout life, who all seem to drop dead way before their time.
And so you're blaming Grim Reaper for taking...
If that's how the story goes, then I guess that's who I got to go see first, right?
Okay, all right. And so it just didn't stop here.
This would be traveling along to visit the second office. So like I said, the series grew into 3 out of 1. So what drove the second one was I realized that there was a few other heroes of mine that I didn't include, but then I took that to make the second one, and now I'm showing up at the second in command, I guess we could say, and I've got the Grim Reaper's skull here and his sickle here, and I'm going to go talk to this guy here who seems to be entertaining himself with empty jars that are labeled with, lo and behold, more of my musical heroes who still walk the earth. So that in itself pisses me off, seeing that in his office. So this is the 3rd panel of the My Cassette Tape series, which grew to 3 on its own. It wasn't planned. It was supposed to be 1. So I figured I have to take my beef to the highest authority. When I got there, I see that he is enjoying the same things that I enjoy currently, but he's got some bad plans, apparently, looking at that hourglass. And here I am showing up wearing all my trophies from visiting his boys. And I would say his fate might end up the same as all of my musical heroes.
Really compelling pieces. Did this series of 3 happen in the course of like a week, or was it over several months?
That's why I write everything down.
Let's see. This one.
What does it say on the back of the first one?
The back of the first one, March. We got March. And we have February, so February, March.
So went across 2 months.
2 months. And this piece here reflects your process in a sense, because we talked about you drawing and also painting. So walk me through a bit of, this is one piece and there's a drawing here, there's a sketch. Is that normally how you start your work?
Yeah, more or less. So this painting, is obviously in utero, so to say, and the way I start them is I just kind of scribble the main idea. So before anything was on this canvas, I just drew the curve of the earth and then kind of quickly sketched up a figure that you all learn in any kind of art school you learn. You just do circles, and then I paint right on that. Once I paint that, then I go back with a pencil and I draw finer details, which I'll paint to very fine detail. And being that in this painting these are my daughters, I tend to rely on my sketching for the final detail in the painting. So this part is kind of painted free and quickly, and then the fine details I'll go back and really meticulously paint them. For instance, their faces might take an hour each, whereas this whole thing might have only taken 2 hours total. And I think that just comes from me being first a pencil drawer in the past. I can't get away from it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Doug, for being here. We're extremely excited that you came and shared your incredible work with us. Again, if you want to follow up with Doug's work, you can check out the website on the screen. And if you have any questions or comments for us here at the station, feel free to email us or reach us out on social media. That's also listed on your screen. I'm your host, Karleen Leveille. Thank you for watching.
Hey, thanks, Karleen.
No problem.